Shows just how dreary it is here on this Monday in the city. Make sure you have that umbrella if you're headed out later today. Well, this weekend, a federal appeals court temporarily blocked President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, halting any debt from being erased. Nearly 22 million people, about half of qualifying borrowers, signed up. But for now, that program's been halted. However, here in the city, New York's Public Student Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF, which has an estimated 250,000 eligible New Yorkers, is still active, but the clock is ticking to sign up. The deadline is 1 week from today. Joining me now to talk about the program is Rich Leimsider. He's the founder and director of PSLF.nyc. Rich, thanks for being here and welcome.
My pleasure.
So we don't want to get confused people because this is different from the initiative that President Biden announced, but this is specifically for people who either work for a nonprofit or work for the government, and you have to have worked for them for 10 years.
That's exactly right. It was built in a way to look like the GI Bill. Instead of doing military service, if you do 10 years of work for any government employer or any nonprofit, and that can include uniform services, teachers, but it could also be anyone who works at Bellevue Hospital. It could be anyone who works at Columbia University, head of the English department, working in janitorial services. Any job at all for those employers counts for this program.
Now, part of the reason why you come on to shows like this and talk about this is because you actually benefited from the program yourself. Talk about who really is benefiting and how many people are being helped by this.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I woke up on May 11th and all of my student loans were forgiven. So I'm not a financial counselor. I'm not a student loan person by long-time experience, but got excited, had a really great group of partners. And it's true, there are so many people who are eligible for this program.
And we're talking about serious money, too. What's the average that someone gets erased?
In New York, it's $63,000.
Wow. So
that's 3 times the amount that's available as the maximum under the new federal loan program. This existing program averages $63,000. A former colleague of mine at a nonprofit where I used to work just had $341,000. All of her undergraduate and graduate school loans erased in 1 month.
Is there a limit as to how much you can get erased?
No limit. Not only that, you don't even actually have to have finished your graduate school or undergraduate program. So what's amazing is that for lower income New Yorkers who may have taken a stab at getting an associate's degree, trying a nursing degree, and didn't graduate, that loan is eligible to be forgiven.
All right, let me play devil's advocate here, because what about the people that say, well, why is it only for, why is this program only for people who work for the government or nonprofits? I mean, there's plenty of people with student loan debt.
Yeah, there absolutely are. I think there's some really interesting conversations, debates to be had about loan forgiveness, loan cancellation. For me, this notion that this was a promise created by the federal government back in 2007, 15 years ago, and like I said, modeled on that GI Bill, feels very reasonable. The idea that if you do service to community for 10 years, and by the way, make good faith efforts to pay those loans for 10 years, then they'll eliminate whatever's left after that period of time. I think it's the kind of thing we want to do for our communities. We want to give people incentives to serve those communities, and we want to help retain people in jobs here in the city and in other places.
Well, there's no doubt that the burden is there. If people are hearing what you're saying and they may be eligible for this, talk about the process. How hard is it to actually sign up?
They've actually made it really straightforward. So what everyone absolutely needs to do, anyone who has spent any time working in any public service
career. Even if it's not 10 years?
Even if it's not 10 years, you want to get your application in now because there are special benefits you can lock in if you do it. You have to go do a 20-minute application process at studentaid.gov/PSLF. That's the government's own website. And if you get stuck at all, we want folks to come to our website where we've got all kinds of help, tools, and resources. And that's just PSLF.nyc.
And how long from when you actually submit the application to when you might actually see a check?
They are blown away. They are completely overwhelmed. So in the first 14 years, when this program was kind of a mess, they approved a grand total of 16,000 applications.
Wow.
In the past 11 months, they've approved 211,000, so they're getting better. They're going to have another million come in the next week. So it's going to be 4 to 6 months before people actually see action on their applications.
Hey, but if that money arrives in the mailbox, that's a big deal. Okay, Rich Leimsider, thank you so much. Again, that website, PSLF.nyc. Rich, thanks. We'll be right back.